The Cape Town Mayor has urged National Police Minister Professor Firoz Cachalia to swiftly allocate emergency support to the South African Police Service's Anti-gang Unit. Now, there have been several shooting incidents in the city of Cape Town. This includes the killing of a 3-month-old baby in Bontehuewel. Now, the Executive Mayor of Cape Town, Geordin Hill-Lewis, joins us live now for this discussion. Mayor, good evening to you and thank you so much for your time. Quite horrific scenes that we've seen, including the shooting of a 3-month-old baby. What is going on?
Well, what is going on is that there is a shake-up for leadership in the Cape Town street gangs. Many of the gang leaders are currently in prison or on trial. In fact, your previous story, just while I was waiting, was about one of those gang leaders currently on trial and in prison. And that means that there's a fight for who takes over as leadership on the ground level. And that has violent consequences because those gangs, obviously when they fight violently. And then, of course, we've also had some other terrible causes, like the release of a convicted murderer out on parole, who then immediately went back to his community and murdered 2 more people and then went straight on the run again. That is an absolute, disgraceful tragedy. But that is some of the causes of what we see happening.
And when you're looking at, for example, these particular cases, you then see the proliferation of guns, and something that
Yes.
has been quite a huge concern for quite some time now. And I suppose even when you listen to some of the experts there, these illegal firearms certainly no match for, in some cases, police officers who themselves are overstretched in some of these cases.
Well, let me tell you a really terrible story. That little baby that was killed in Bontehuewel. The murderer there is a person who has been arrested twice before for illegal firearm possession. And on both those previous occasions, that case has fallen out of the court system and has failed and has not resulted in a prosecution. And hence that person is out on the street and able to perpetrate such heinous crimes as they've done this week. So this is the perfect example case of why it is essential that Cape Town be given the right to investigate crimes. Our officers should be able to investigate crimes themselves without having to rely on absolutely overworked, overstretched SAPS detectives and an increasingly fragile and stretched criminal justice system. If we could do that, we could make sure that people like that go to prison instead of being able to do the terrible thing he has done this week.
You do have some activists on the ground, though, who say that while, of course, the detectives may be overstretched, but the calling of your own capabilities to be able to investigate some of these matters is the city of Cape Town trying to usurp the powers from the national government and seemingly trying to, you do have others who say that you're trying to, in fact, not even even the playing field, for example, level it for some of the communities that would be underprivileged. It's all about politics and politics and politics. How do you respond to those?
So we cannot be usurping powers from SAPS because we're not trying to take any powers away from them. They will still have the powers to investigate. We want the powers to be added to Metro police officers so that in cases like this, firearm cases where we make arrests for illegal firearms or gangsterism cases or drug cases, or as the case may be, that we can make sure that they are investigated properly, that they get taken through the court process properly and diligently, and that they lead to a conviction rate higher than the current conviction rate of just 5%. That means 5 out of every 100 of these criminals only go to prison, only 5 of them. 95 do not. And that is a crying shame in our country and leads to the kinds of violence that we see. If we could turn that number around so that 95 of them go to prison and 5 do not, then we would have a vastly different situation on the streets. So I think this is now almost becoming essential. You look at the pressure the police is under, you look at the increasing meltdown in the SAPS nationally. We have to extend those powers to capable Metro police forces to help win the war on crime.
And what happens if you don't get your way?
Well, I think it's becoming increasingly irrational to say no to this. When you see the pressure the police is under, when you see the meltdown of SAPS at a leadership level, you see the extreme corruption and capture of crime intelligence, it's just not achieving the results that it needs to achieve to bring crime down in South Africa. So I think after a certain amount of asking and being denied, it starts to actually become irrational. And then you actually have a case to go to the government or to the courts and say, this is no longer in the bounds of rationality. This must now happen.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, you're prepared to go to the courts if it's a no?
Undoubtedly.
Now, what then does it mean? And I ask this because one would then say, would you have enough hands on deck if this were to happen, as far as the Metro Police are concerned, to be able to service even the areas, for example, like Philippi, where we heard, we saw 3 of the MPs there coming under attack. But in contrast to that, even the MPs themselves do say that that is a usual occurrence there in that particular community where people need help. So would you be able to have all hands on deck to police every part of Cape Town?
Well, it's not so much about street policing. We already have a huge amount of officers on the street. Nothing compared to SAPS officers, of course. They've got 10 times the resources. But with the resources that we have, we make sure that they are strategically deployed and make the most positive difference. This is about investigating crime. And we would absolutely make sure that for illegal guns, for drugs, and for gangsterism, that we would have enough investigating officers, detectives, to make sure that those cases are investigated properly, thoroughly, competently, fully, and that they go through to the prosecution with a slam dunk case where you don't get the tragedy we've had where someone gets arrested twice for possession of illegal firearms, released twice, and then goes and commits this heinous crime that has happened this week.
Has the police minister responded to you?
He's responded to say that he's received my letter and that we're going to set up a meeting, but no response on the substance, obviously.
All right, Mayor, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it. That was the Executive Mayor of the City of Cape Town, that is Geordin Hill-Lewis.